So we talked about genuflections and bows.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about the folding of the hands. Is there any other gesture that you thought it would be important to talk about?
Yeah, we talked about hands folded, but yeah, there's the orons too. And often enough, as I hold my hands, sometimes I see people holding their hands out. Is that proper for somebody to do who's not a priest? Should they?
Yeah, so this gesture of the hands extended in prayer, in the context of public worship, is the gesture of the one who is presiding over the liturgy, whether it's a deacon or a priest, right? So sometimes a deacon is celebrating marriage or baptism.
Mm-hmm.
When the deacon is doing that and saying the orations, he holds his hands in the orans position.
Sure.
But for everyone else, see, this gesture is done in the name of everyone. This is not the priest or the deacon praying in his own right. This is him praying in the place or in the name of everyone else. So generally, with the exception of concelebration, the only time you should ever see the gesture of orans is by the one who is the celebrant. Right? Notice, even in the context of the Mass, the deacon never does orans, not even for the Lord's Prayer.
No.
Right? So it's the one who is the principal celebrant or the main celebrant who does that gesture.
Yeah, now that makes sense to me, especially showing the unity that we would have one person do that and do it well for everybody. As a priest, like you were describing in the general instruction, he makes intercession for the whole people of God. And when I saw you do the orans like that, I thought, there's something like gathering all the prayers. I think that's one of the introductions to the Lord's Prayer in the Liturgy of the Hours, gathering our prayers and praises. The orans really communicates that. Am I onto something there?
Well, I think you're close, to tell you the truth. There are several different styles of the orans position. So this position with the palms flat and facing forward, about shoulder length, they could go higher, is the most ancient version of it that we have. Right? We see images of it painted on the catacombs, and it's not particular people so much as it is souls offering themselves or their lives to God. Other ways of doing it are more cruciform, with the hands more like the cross to the side like this. And for me, the cruciform gesture is more of a gesture of gathering, right? Okay. Because it's more extended, like Christ on the cross trying to gather all of the faithful into one. This orans position, to me, seems like a more poignant gesture of total surrender to God, right? And that's what it means, precisely, right? There we are standing before the presence of God, and we just, everything that we have, we just lift up to Him.
Yeah. I never thought about it that way, but yeah, there's this sort of defenselessness, just this total surrender. Yeah, just.
I mean, when I was a newly ordained priest, they used to make fun of it and say, "Oh, you look like you're in a holdup." Well, we put our hands up like this in a holdup because we're surrendering, and that's precisely what it means in the context of Mass, right? Especially during the Eucharistic prayer, I am giving myself totally and completely and unreservedly to God, just as Christ has done for us.
Yeah, I appreciate how you share that story, because it can be maybe a little embarrassing, our gestures sometimes, but when we know the meaning of them, they make total sense. And in some ways, we're talking about humility. I don't want to be proud about it, but I want to say, yeah, I'm a sinner. I give up, and I trust you, Lord, to give me a merciful judgment, and because that's what you've told me you offer here in the Eucharist.
One of the things I always like to go back to is that there's a paragraph in Vatican II's document on the sacred liturgy, Sacrosanctum Concilium, and I believe it's paragraph 11, where it's talking specifically about pastors of parishes, or pastors of souls is actually what it says. And one of the things it tells them is that they have to realize that the celebration of Mass is a whole lot more than just following the rules. Now, that doesn't mean don't follow the rules, right? It means you should follow the rules, but there's something more than merely following the rules. You should understand what the rules mean. And you should teach the meaning of these signs and symbols and gestures to the faithful so that they too can benefit from it. I think that's in some ways the adventure that we've embarked on in these monastic musings. And so it's my deepest desire that the people of God will learn what the gestures mean and remember them every time they go to Mass.